you probably know this feeling. Your alarm goes off, you grab your phone, and within 3 minutes you are in your email, your DMs, your newsfeed. Before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already reacting to other people's priorities. By the time you stand up, you have already carried other people's problems into your own body already. When mornings start like this, the whole day bends around that first wave of reactivity. You sit down to work, but your attention is still tied to whatever you just saw on your screen. It feels like you live inside everyone else's agenda, and there is never a solid moment that feels like yours. Marcus Aurelius took the opposite approach. An emperor with more pressure than any of us, he would rehearse his day in the morning, reminding himself that he would meet difficulty, selfishness, and delay, and that none of those things needed to control his inner state. Mornings were not a slot to kill time. They were a training ground for the rest of the day. If the first 20 minutes were steady, the chances of a steady day multiplied. This lesson is about building that kind of morning. In simple terms, you will walk away with 3 practical outcomes. First, you will have a 3-step morning sequence you can run in 20 minutes or less. Second, you will have a clear boundary that keeps your phone from hijacking your mind while you are still half asleep. Third, you will have a short mantra you can repeat that anchors you in calm action instead of impulsive reaction. Educational content inspired by classical Stoic texts. Not medical, psychological, or legal advice. Stay with me until the very end, and while you're here, hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Think about the way a normal weekday goes in North America. You might have kids to get to school, a commute that can swing from 20 minutes to an hour, a boss who messages you on Slack before you even pour coffee, or a partner who wakes up stressed about bills. If your inner state is already frayed from a chaotic start, every one of those normal frictions hits harder than it needs to. A tighter morning foundation does not remove the pressure, but it changes how you meet it. Nothing here is mystical or complicated. You do not need special apps, expensive tools, or a perfect lifestyle. You need a few small moves done consistently, guided by clear principles. On the first minutes of the day, decide what kind of person you are going to be before the world decides for you, and touch your values before you touch your notifications. Once you treat those minutes as serious training, the rest of your schedule starts to feel less chaotic and more deliberate. Here is how we will build it together. First, we will lock in a non-negotiable wake-up cue so you stop negotiating with yourself in bed. Next, we will put a simple phone hold rule around your first 20 minutes. Then, we will install a one-page focus check that you can complete in under 5 minutes. After that, we will add a brief morning rehearsal to harden your mindset against daily annoyances. Finally, we will craft a short mantra and closing move that send you into the day with iron. Calm instead of scattered energy. The first move is to make your wake-up time a decision you make once, not every single morning. You pick a realistic time that fits your life, considering your commute and work start, and you treat it as a promise instead of a daily negotiation with your half-asleep brain. This works because the groggy, comfort-seeking version of you is terrible at long-term decisions, especially when the room is warm, the bed is soft, and the sky outside is still dark. When you let that version vote, you hit snooze, scroll your phone, linger in email, and start the day with a small broken promise that whispers, "We can push what matters aside." Over time that erodes self-respect, trains your body to expect delay, and makes it harder to trust yourself around bigger goals like saving money or building a side project. When the time is pre-decided while you are calm and awake, you are simply executing a clear plan rather than reopening the debate at 6 in the morning when you are at your weakest. The line you use with yourself is, "I get up when the alarm rings because I already decided this last night." Say it quietly, even if you do not feel motivated, and swing your legs out of bed as you say it, letting your body lead and allowing your feelings to catch up later. Imagine someone in Toronto who usually wakes up at 6:30, snoozes twice, and then lies in bed answering Slack messages in the dark. Most days they finally stand up just before 7, already slightly late for their morning routine and already holding a phone that has pulled them into work mode. On Monday night, they set their alarm for 6:20 and put the phone across the room on a dresser, plugged in and face down. When it rings, they feel the familiar pull to lie there and bargain for just 10 more minutes, but they repeat the line out loud, stand up, walk to the phone, and turn it off without checking notifications. The whole act takes less than 15 seconds, but the feeling afterward is different. Instead of disappointment, there is a small, quiet pride, the sense that they are steering the day rather than being dragged by it. By Friday of that same week, Getting up at 6:20 feels less like a dramatic effort and more like doing what they said they would do, and that subtle strength spills into later decisions, from food choices to how they respond to a tense email. Today's tiny action is simple: choose a wake-up time for the next 7 days, write it on a sticky note next to your bed, set a single alarm at that time, and move your phone or alarm clock far enough away that you must stand up to switch it off. The second move is to put a firm hold on your phone for the first 20 minutes after you wake up. You are not banning it for the whole morning, you are simply protecting the most fragile part of your attention from instant hijack by other people's urgency, opinions, sales pitches, and noise. This works because your half-awake brain is highly impressionable and suggestible, like wet cement that takes the print of whatever lands on it first. The first inputs of the day set your emotional baseline, your sense of what matters, and even how much control you feel over your schedule for the next several hours. If the first thing you see is an angry email, dramatic headline, or carefully curated social post, your nervous system starts the day in defensive mode before you have even brushed your teeth, while a quiet buffer lets your mind stabilize and remember its own priorities before you plug into the wider world. The line you use here is, for the first 20 minutes, my phone is a tool, not my boss. During that window you only touch it, if at all, to turn off the alarm and maybe start a timer, a calm playlist, or a specific audio you chose the night before, and you do not open anything that feeds you new information. Picture someone in Dallas who wakes up, turns off their alarm, and instantly opens Instagram. Within 60 seconds they are watching a reel about layoffs, a friend's vacation in Mexico, and a sponsored ad about a course they feel guilty for not buying, and the comparison and anxiety land before they are even fully conscious, tightening their chest as they stare at the ceiling. The rest of the morning becomes a blur of skipping breakfast, half-reading emails, and racing out the door, all with a faint sense that they are behind in an invisible race that no one clearly defined. Now imagine the same person deciding that for the first 20 minutes, the phone stays face down on a shelf in the hallway, on airplane mode, out of reach of sleepy hands. They wake up, turn off the alarm, walk to the kitchen, drink water, stretch, maybe write one line in a notebook about what kind of person they want to be today, and let their thoughts be their own before they look at a single notification. Today's tiny action is to choose a physical place where your phone will live for the first 20 minutes after you wake up, put a simple timer or clock there tonight, and tomorrow morning, turn your alarm off and immediately place the phone in that spot before you do anything else, even before checking the weather or email. The third move is to give your mind a simple written target before it faces the world. Take 2 to 5 minutes to do a one-page focus check so the day has a clear center of gravity instead of being pulled equally by every notification and request. This works because attention loves to latch onto whatever feels most urgent, not what is truly most important. Without a clear plan, your mind will treat the loudest email, the freshest text, or the latest crisis as the main thing, even if it does not move your life forward or match your values. A short written check redirects that impulse by forcing you to name what matters most for today, which turns vague intention into something you can actually measure at dinner time when you ask yourself whether the day was well spent. Your script on the page is very simple. Today, my one key task is _______. One way I will show up with integrity is _______. One thing I am worried about, that I will not let run the day, is ______. You are not writing an essay, you are filling in 3 short blanks with honest, plain language you could read back at night. Think of someone in Seattle who works remotely for a tech company and often feels like their day disappears into meetings and Slack threads. On a typical morning, they open their laptop, check their calendar, and instantly feel scattered because every slot is filled with other people's agendas, and their own important work keeps getting pushed late into the evening, sometimes stealing time from family or exercise. After putting the phone aside for 20 minutes, they sit at the kitchen table with a notebook and write, "Today, my one key task is to finish the draft of the product spec. One way I will show up with integrity is by giving clear, kind feedback in my stand-up meeting. One thing I am worried about, that I will not let run the day, is the performance review next week." The words take less than 3 minutes to write, but now, as they move through the morning, they have an anchor they can return to whenever a new request pops up. When a coworker pings them to jump on an unplanned call, they glance at the page and can honestly decide whether it supports or undermines their one key task, instead of saying yes out of reflex. Today's tiny action is to choose one notebook or a single sheet of paper, place it where you will see it in the morning, and tomorrow, fill in those 3 sentences before you open your email or any work app, even if you feel rushed. If you forget and start checking messages first, pause as soon as you notice, close what you opened, and complete the 3 lines before returning to your screen. The fourth move is to rehearse the kind of day you are likely to face and decide in advance how you want to respond. Instead of hoping things go smoothly, you acknowledge that people will be imperfect, delays will happen, and some plans will break, and you commit to staying steady anyway. This works because most frustration comes not from events themselves but from the gap between what you expected and what actually happens. When you secretly expect that traffic will always flow, coworkers will answer quickly, and your partner will be in a good mood, normal human behavior feels like an insult or a personal attack. A short mental rehearsal lowers unrealistic expectations and shifts your focus from controlling other people to controlling your own choices, which is a core part of this practice and a major source of calm, the same move Marcus Aurelius used each morning. Your line here is, "Today I will likely meet delay, confusion, and selfishness, and I will answer with patience and clarity instead of outrage." You can say it out loud while standing in your kitchen or bathroom, or quietly in your head while you make coffee, letting the words sink in like instructions to your future self. Consider someone in Atlanta who drives across the city every morning and constantly arrives at work wired with irritation. On the way in, they curse at drivers who cut them off, stew about slow traffic, and replay yesterday's annoying email from their manager, so by the time they reach the office, their body is already buzzing with stress, and the first coworker who says, "Got a minute," feels like an attack. One week they decide to try this rehearsal instead. As part of their morning routine, while the coffee brews, they think through the likely frictions. There will be traffic on the highway. Someone will send a vague message. My manager may drop a last-minute request. They repeat their line about answering with patience and clarity, then head out. When the predictable annoyances appear, there is still a flicker of irritation, but it lands on prepared ground. They take a slow breath, respond briefly, and keep driving instead of leaning on the horn or typing a long, reactive message that they will regret later. Today's tiny action is to choose one daily friction you can almost guarantee will appear. Say your line once while picturing it, and when it shows up, take one slow breath before responding so you can answer it in the way you already chose instead of in the way your first impulse demands. At the end of the day, briefly notice whether you kept that promise to yourself, not to judge, but to see how preparation changed the tone of the moment. The fifth move is to anchor your body before you ask your mind to do anything complex. You give yourself one small physical ritual that signals, "The day has started and I am present," instead of stumbling from bed straight into a chair and wondering why you feel dull and disconnected from your own life. This works because your nervous system does not reset just because you opened your eyes. Sleep, stress from yesterday, and even what you ate the night before all linger in your body and can color the first hours of your morning without you noticing. A simple ritual that involves movement, light, and breath tells your brain that you are safe, awake, and ready to focus, which makes it easier to pay attention when you sit down to work or handle chores. Your line here is, "I start my day in my body, not in my inbox." As you say it, you perform your chosen ritual, drinking a glass of water, opening the blinds or stepping onto a balcony or porch, and doing a brief stretch or slow breathing pattern for 1 or 2 minutes, treating this as non-negotiable in the same way you would treat brushing your teeth. Imagine someone in Montreal who usually rolls out of bed, pours coffee, and sits immediately at their desk in a dark apartment to open their laptop. Within 15 minutes they feel heavy and unfocused, so they fix it with more caffeine, which makes them jittery but not truly awake, and by mid-morning they are exhausted and confused about why they cannot think clearly or stay with a single task. One week they decide to install a physical anchor. After getting up at their chosen time and putting the phone aside, they walk to the sink, drink a full glass of water, open the curtains, and step onto the balcony, even if it is cold outside and they would rather stay under a blanket. They take 10 slow breaths while looking at something far away, feeling their feet on the ground and their shoulders drop, then come back in and do a gentle stretch before they even make coffee. The whole ritual takes less than 5 minutes, but as they sit at their desk, their body feels more alive, their mind less foggy, and the urge to scroll mindlessly is weaker because they already performed a clear start signal that belongs to them, not to an app. Today's tiny action is to decide on a 3-part physical ritual you can do tomorrow morning in under 5 minutes, lay out anything you need for it tonight, and commit to performing it before you open any app or sit down at a screen. If you are tempted to skip it, remind yourself that this is training your future focus the way a workout trains your future strength. The 6th move is to lock in one protected block of focused work early in the day, before the world has a chance to scatter you. Instead of leaving your schedule open to whatever arrives, you reserve a small, clear window for work that actually moves your life forward, even if the rest of the day is messy. This works because important tasks often do not scream for attention the way urgent messages do. If you wait until your inbox is calm or your to-do list is empty, you will rarely get to the work that matters most, whether that is studying, building a side business, or planning your finances. A protected block early in the day leverages the fact that your willpower and attention are usually stronger in the morning, turning that energy into a concrete result instead of letting it leak away in low-impact activity like checking news or adjusting small details. Your line for this move is, from _____ to _______, I am unavailable for anything that is not this task. You say it after you fill in your one key task on the page, then you actually write the time block in your calendar or planner so it lives somewhere real. Imagine someone in Chicago who wants to study for a professional exam but keeps putting it off because work and family demands feel endless. On most days they tell themselves they will study whenever there is a gap, but those gaps get filled with scrolling and errands, and by nighttime they are too tired to think clearly. After setting a steady wake-up time, a phone hold rule, and a brief physical ritual, they decide that on weekdays, from 7 to 7:25 in the morning, they will be in focused study with their phone on Do Not Disturb in another room. When a roommate or family member asks a casual question during that block or when a notification pops up, they glance at the written time and quietly say, "I'm in my block right now, I'll be free after," and then return to the material without apologizing for protecting that window. After a few weeks, that small daily block adds up to hours of concentrated study that would never have appeared by accident, and they feel more confident heading into the exam because they kept a promise to themselves. Today's tiny action is to choose one 20 to 30-minute window in the first half of your day, decide what goes inside it, and write both the time and the task on paper or in your calendar so that when that time arrives tomorrow, you are not deciding from scratch. If your mornings are already packed, start with a shorter block, even 10 focused minutes, and defend it as if it were a meeting with someone you deeply respect. The seventh move is to close your morning with a mantra and a deliberate step out of setup mode and into your day. You do not leave the routine open-ended, you mark the moment you shift from preparation to action so your mind stops circling and starts moving. This works because rituals are most powerful when they have a clear beginning and a clear end. Without an intentional closing move, it is easy for the morning to blur into more planning, more tweaking, or more scrolling, and you never quite cross the line into focused doing even though you feel busy. A short spoken line paired with one physical action acts like a doorway. Once you step through, you treat the day as officially started, which reduces decision fatigue. Your mantra line is, "I know what matters today, and I will move toward it with calm focus." As you say it, you take one closing step that fits your life, such as putting on your shoes, turning off a specific light, closing the notebook you used, or gently placing your phone in the spot where it will live during your first focus block, and you treat that action as something you do whether you feel ready or not. Picture someone in Vancouver who often spends their whole morning adjusting their productivity system instead of using it. They wake up late, tweak their calendar, rewrite their to-do list, watch a few productivity videos, and then look up to see that half the morning is gone and their real work has not started, which feeds a quiet shame that makes the next day even harder. After building the earlier parts of this routine, they decide that once their focus check is written and their physical ritual is done, they will stand up, place their hand flat on their notebook, and say the mantra out loud with a steady voice. On Monday, they feel slightly awkward, but they do it anyway, then immediately sit down for their first protected work block and open the exact file they plan to work on. By Thursday, their brain has started to associate that simple sequence, hand on notebook, spoken line, first action, with now we work, and they find it easier to slide into focused effort without drama on mornings when they feel off. Today's tiny action is to choose a closing action and repeat the mantra once tomorrow after you finish your morning steps, treating that combination as your official starting bell. If you forget and catch yourself drifting into extra planning or random scrolling, pause, go back, perform the closing action, say the line, and then restart your task so your body learns to respect that doorway. Imagine Alex, a 34-year-old project manager living in Minneapolis. For years, Alex woke up to an alarm on their phone, rolled onto their back, and checked email and notifications before even sitting up. Most days started with a rush of panic and envy, and by the time work began, the feeling of being behind had already hardened into a story: I am always late. I am always catching up. One Sunday night, after yet another week of scattered mornings and rushed evenings, Alex decides to run a 10-day experiment. On a sticky note by the bed, they write a simple plan: get up when the alarm rings, keep the phone away for 20 minutes, write the 3 focus lines, rehearse likely frictions, do a quick physical ritual, and sit for one protected block of focused work before opening any inbox. It is the first time the morning has been described in concrete steps instead of vague hopes. On Monday, the alarm rings at 6:30. Alex's first impulse is to hit snooze and grab the phone, but the sticky note catches their eye. They sit up, say quietly, "I get up when the alarm rings because I already decided this last night," and stand. The phone goes onto a dresser across the room, face down. For the first 20 minutes, Alex drinks water, stretches, opens the blinds, and scribbles 3 short lines on a notepad naming one key task, one way they will show up with integrity, and one worry they refuse to let run the day. While coffee brews, Alex does a quick rehearsal of what will probably go wrong. The client may ask for a change, a teammate may be slow to respond, a last-minute request may land. They repeat the line about answering with patience and clarity rather than outrage, then step onto the balcony for 10 slow breaths in the cold air. Before opening the laptop, Alex sets a timer for 25 minutes, writes a simple note at the top of the page: budget draft, 6:55 to 7:20, and starts working. By mid-morning, a client sends a tense email questioning part of the proposal, and a coworker cancels a meeting at the last second. But something is different. When Alex opens that email, they are reading it after having already completed their focused block. The subject line still triggers a spike of anxiety, but instead of spiraling into "I am failing," Alex takes one slow breath, remembers the morning line about patience and clarity, and types a brief, steady response that suggests a concrete next step. On the drive home, they notice that although they are tired, they feel less wrung out, and a new story quietly appears: "I can start the day on my terms." You have seen how the first 20 minutes of your day can either hand your mind to everyone else or quietly train it to stay under your control. The steady wake-up decision removes the exhausting daily argument with yourself, and the phone hold rule protects your half-awake brain from being flooded by other people's urgency. The one-page focus check gives the day a clear center, while the short morning rehearsal lowers unrealistic expectations and shifts your attention back to what you can choose. A simple physical ritual wakes up your body before you ask it for focus, a protected early block turns good intentions into concrete progress, and the closing mantra plus action draws a clear line between getting ready and showing up, so you walk into the day with a calmer, more deliberate presence. Today, set your alarm for a realistic time, move your phone out of reach, and decide that when it rings tomorrow you will stand up on the first try, place the phone in its spot, and complete your 3 focus lines before opening any inbox. Also choose one physical ritual and one 20 to 30 minute focus block, write them down where you will see them in the morning, and treat them as appointments you keep with yourself. Finally, pick a simple closing action and repeat the mantra: "I know what matters today, and I will move toward it with calm focus." Once tomorrow, as you cross from morning routine into your first real task, noticing how that tiny ceremony changes the feel of your start. When you are ready to go further, the next useful skill is designing an evening reset that makes the next morning easier, so consider exploring how these ideas can shape your nighttime shutdown, your device limits, and the way you review your day before sleep. If you feel messages like this need to reach more people, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next lesson.